There is a kind of weakness that never looks like weakness. You can carry yourself with confidence in public, speak loudly, dress well, earn money, build your body, and still be governed by things you should have outgrown years ago. A single comment ruins your mood. Rejection quietly rewrites how you see yourself. A difficult task gets pushed to tomorrow, someone else succeeds, and suddenly you feel smaller. Nothing dramatic happens, but little by little, you stop being the person directing your life. Something else is doing it for you. Your temper, your excuses, other people's opinions, comfort, comparison, your own lack of discipline, and that's what makes these patterns so dangerous. They don't usually announce themselves. They disguise themselves as personality, as circumstances, as common sense. They feel like, that's just how I am. But underneath that familiar feeling, something else is happening. A quiet, grinding exhaustion that has nothing to do with how much you slept. It's the fatigue of losing battles you didn't even realize you were fighting, not against the world, but against yourself. Most of us were never taught how to examine our own mind. We were told to work hard, to push through, to be confident. But no one showed us that real strength doesn't come from what you do. It comes from what you stop doing to yourself. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius, writing only to himself, reminded himself of something radical. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. That line still cuts straight to the bone, and it hints at something most of us were never taught. Epictetus took it further. He didn't just argue that events are neutral. He insisted that the moment you hand your inner state over to something outside your control, you've already lost. You've made yourself a puppet, and the strings get pulled by every passing circumstance, every critical comment, every disappointment. Weakness, from a Stoic perspective, isn't about failing to dominate other people. It's about failing to govern yourself. So, when we talk about the signs of a weak man, we're not talking about a lack of muscle, or status, or money. We're talking about habits that eat away at you quietly, your self-respect, your autonomy, the simple ability to move through a day without getting knocked sideways. These habits aren't character flaws you're born with. They're learned, repeated, reinforced, and that means they can be unlearned. But only if you're willing to look at them honestly. Let's name 7 of them plainly. By the end, you'll have a much clearer read on which ones are quietly running your life instead of you. The first pattern is emotional reactivity. A man who is ruled by his feelings isn't free. He's a weather vane. Someone says something dismissive, and his whole internal climate shifts. Something goes wrong at work, and he's derailed for the rest of the day. Pressure shows up, and he retreats or lashes out. The problem isn't that he feels anger, fear, or frustration. Those are just signals. The problem is that the feeling arrives and immediately takes the wheel. There's no pause, no space, no moment of choosing. What the Stoics practiced, and what modern psychology now confirms, is that between a stimulus and your response, there is a gap. A tiny, almost invisible sliver of time. For most people, that gap is non-existent because they've never trained themselves to notice it. They've lived on autopilot, letting every emotional impulse translate instantly into a reaction. But every time you close that gap, you shrink yourself. You become predictable. You become a person whose behavior can be triggered by anyone who knows which buttons to press. Real strength is built in the deliberate expansion of that pause. It's not about suppressing emotion. It's about learning to feel something fully without letting it dictate your next move. That's the difference between a life steered by impulse and a life guided by intention. The second pattern is the habit of excuse-making. This one is slippery because it often sounds reasonable. A man says he doesn't have enough time, enough resources, enough support. He points to the economy, his upbringing, the people around him, and many of those factors may genuinely be challenging. But the moment an explanation becomes a reason not to act, it mutates into something else, a shield against responsibility. Excuses are a way of saying, "I am not the author of my situation." And that might feel comforting in the short term, because if you're not the author, then you're not to blame. But the cost of that comfort is enormous. You give up authorship entirely. If you're not responsible, you're also not powerful. Taking responsibility doesn't mean pretending everything is your fault. It means acknowledging that your response to any circumstance is always yours. It means asking, "What can I do right now with what I have?" instead of listing what's missing. Strong men understand that responsibility is not a burden. It's the access point to agency. The moment you stop blaming, you start moving. You reclaim the pen. And even if the first thing you write is small, it's still your own. The third pattern is the relentless search for approval. This one wears a mask of humility or agreeableness, and because of that, it's often mistaken for a virtue. A man who needs validation will adjust his opinions, hide his real thoughts, avoid conflict, and say yes when he means no, all to manage how others perceive him. On the surface, he seems easygoing. Inside, he's constantly performing, exhausting himself, trying to become what everyone else wants. And the tragedy is that it never works. People-pleasing doesn't create genuine connection. It creates a hollow kind of acceptance that leaves you feeling invisible. Every time you outsource your sense of worth to someone else's opinion, you give away a fragment of your identity. Over time, you wake up not knowing who you actually are. You've become a collection of other people's expectations. A strong man lives by principles, not by applause. He knows what he stands for, and he's willing to be misunderstood. He's not abrasive or indifferent to others. He simply refuses to let his inner stability depend on their approval. That doesn't push people away, it attracts the right ones. Respect isn't earned by being agreeable, it's earned by being real. Now, if any of this is landing, it's probably because you've felt the weight of these patterns in your own life. Maybe you've noticed how easily you get thrown off course by criticism, or how often you catch yourself making the same excuses, or how drained you feel after performing for people whose approval doesn't actually nourish you. That awareness is the beginning. But awareness alone won't build a mind nothing can shake. That takes consistent, deliberate work, the kind we explore every week on the Stoic Citadel. So if you want to go deeper into the practical mechanics of self-mastery, consider subscribing and making this a regular part of your mental training. Now let's keep going, because the patterns that follow are where many men stall out completely. The fourth pattern is the avoidance of discomfort. A man who habitually chooses the easier path, postpones difficult conversations, and keeps pushing hard decisions to some later version of himself isn't protecting himself. He's slowly atrophying. Growth of any kind, psychological, emotional, physical, requires encountering resistance. Muscles don't strengthen without strain, and neither does character. But when a man consistently sidesteps challenge, he trains himself to believe he's fragile. Every avoided difficulty whispers, "You can't handle this." Eventually, he starts believing it. The Stoics had a practice called voluntary discomfort, deliberately exposing themselves to cold, hunger, or discomfort to remind themselves that they could endure. The point wasn't to suffer for its own sake. It was to hardwire the understanding that comfort is not the goal. The goal is capability. Strong men lean into difficulty not because they enjoy pain, but because they know that on the other side of it is a version of themselves that has expanded. Confidence is not a prerequisite for facing challenges, it's a byproduct. You build it by doing things that scare you, especially when you don't feel ready. Each time you do, you deposit proof into your own account. You are not as fragile as your fears insist. There's a fifth pattern, and it's easy to miss because it doesn't look like weakness at all. It looks like being busy. A man can't sit still with his own mind. The second there's a gap, waiting in line, The first few minutes after waking up, a quiet car ride, an evening with nothing scheduled, he fills it. A podcast, a scroll, a show playing in the background while he does something else. Not because any of it matters to him, because silence doesn't feel peaceful. It feels like being left alone in a room with everything he's been outrunning all day. That's the part worth sitting with. The noise isn't really about entertainment. It's a way of not hearing something, and the more constant the noise gets, the more it starts to look like a man who's terrified of his own company, who's arranged his entire day so he's never actually alone with what's going on inside him. This one is sneaky because it hides behind productivity. He tells himself he's efficient, that he's making use of dead time, that stillness is a waste. But there's a difference between using time well and refusing to ever stop moving. A man who can't sit in silence for 10 minutes without reaching for something isn't disciplined. He's avoiding an appointment with himself, and the longer he avoids it, the less he actually knows about who he's become. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this exact escape route, and he wasn't gentle about it. People go looking for quiet in the countryside, by the sea, in the mountains, he said, and then he called that a mark of ordinary thinking, because a man carries the ability to retreat into himself wherever he already is. Nowhere is more peaceful, he wrote, than a man's own mind, if he keeps it in order. The retreat was never somewhere else. It was always available, and most men just refused to take it. Strength here doesn't mean removing every distraction from your life. It means being able to sit in a quiet room and stay there, to let a thought finish, instead of reaching for something to cut it off. Not analyzing every feeling to death, just being present enough with yourself that you'd actually recognize your own voice if it spoke up. A man who can do that isn't running from anything. He's the one thing in the room he never has to escape. The sixth pattern is the need to pull others down. This manifests as chronic criticism, gossip, belittling, or a constant focus on other people's flaws. It's tempting to see this as arrogance, but it's almost always the opposite. It's an attempt to regulate one's own shaky self-esteem by standing on someone else. A man who feels small inside will look for ways to feel bigger, and one shortcut is to diminish those around him. The problem is that this never actually fixes the inner void. It just creates a false sense of superiority that collapses the moment he's alone with himself. A strong man doesn't need to compete with everyone. He's too engaged in his own evolution to waste energy comparing. He recognizes value in others because he's not threatened by it. He can celebrate someone else's win without feeling like it takes something away from him. That's not weakness, it's deep security. And interestingly, when you stop tearing others down, something shifts in how people respond to you. You start attracting collaboration instead of friction, respect instead of resentment. The way you treat others is a mirror of your relationship with yourself. The seventh pattern is perhaps the most foundational because it underpins all the others: a lack of self-discipline. Without discipline, emotional control is impossible. Without discipline, you can't stop making excuses or seeking approval or avoiding difficulty. Discipline is the architecture that holds everything else in place. A man who relies on motivation will always be inconsistent because motivation is a feeling, and feelings come and go. He'll start projects with enthusiasm, then abandon them the moment the initial spark fades. He'll make promises to himself and break them so often that he eventually stops trusting his own word. That last part is devastating. Every time you tell yourself you'll do something and then don't, you erode self-trust. You send a message to your own psyche that your commitments don't mean much. Over years, this accumulates into a quiet sense of worthlessness that no external achievement can fix. Discipline rebuilds that trust. It's not about grand gestures, it's about doing the small, unglamorous things you said you would do, day after day, especially when no one is watching. The man who follows through on his own word becomes someone he can rely on, And that internal reliability radiates outward into every area of life. And here's what makes these patterns dangerous as a set. They don't stay in their lanes. They feed each other. They form a self-reinforcing loop that keeps a man stuck in a version of himself far below his potential. But the loop can be broken. It starts with seeing it clearly, and then making a deliberate choice to respond differently, moment by moment, not perfectly, just consistently enough to shift the trajectory. And that quiet, grinding exhaustion, the one that had nothing to do with sleep, finally starts to lift. The Stoics believed that philosophy wasn't meant to be read and admired. It was meant to be practiced. In the gymnasium of the mind, every difficult moment is an opportunity to train. Every irritation is a chance to expand that pause before reacting. Every excuse noticed is an invitation to take responsibility. Every craving for approval is a reminder to anchor back into your own principles. This is not about becoming emotionless or hard. It's about becoming sovereign, someone whose inner state isn't at the mercy of passing events. That kind of strength isn't inherited. It's built, one deliberate choice at a time. If something in this resonated, don't let it evaporate. Take a moment to reflect. Which of these patterns has been quietly running the show in your life? And what would change if you started dismantling it this week? Not with a dramatic overhaul, but with one honest action. The mind you want, the one that can face anything without shattering, isn't a distant fantasy. It's the cumulative result of showing up for yourself in moments like this one. And if you want to keep sharpening that clarity alongside others doing the same work, subscribe to the Stoic Citadel and turn these ideas into a living practice. Strength is not something you have, it's something you embody every single day.